Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of Backup Stories. My name is Justin Townsend. I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Rob Newmeyer.
How's it going?
Last week was episode 0 for us. It was our test run. We got a lot of positive feedback from everybody about how the show went, and we're really grateful for it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
So this week, we're still toying around with the formula of how the show is going to go and what books we're going to talk about. So we just chose 6 books this week for us to talk about, a mixture of some things from last week, some things from this week. And do be careful. We're going heavy into spoiler territory for a lot of these books. So if you haven't read certain books that we're talking about, you could either pause and come back. You could skip forward a bit. Whatever works for you. Right, Mr. Rob?
Yeah. If it's sitting on top of your reading pile, then just hold off a sec and or just skip ahead like 4 or 5 minutes maybe. But yeah, if you want to be in the conversation, I highly suggest you just read the book and listen.
It wasn't a huge week this week with big releases, but there were a couple of standout books that we noticed. Rob, the first one that I noticed you picked out was Chrononauts.
Yes, sir. Chrononauts, Mark Millar and Sean Murphy.
I've been very excited about this book since it was announced.
Excited, and I mean, I'm kind of nervous about it too, just for the fact that Millar likes to take his sweet ass time.
Yeah, I've been a Millar fan for a while. Superior is one of my favorite books of all time. Superior is I guess a current day story of Big with Tom Hanks. It has a little boy who becomes a superhero, but it does not end the way that you think it does, and it is not because he makes a wish at a magic machine. It's a really good story. So ever since I read that, I've been a Millar fan. Loved his Old Man Logan run. Yep, he's probably best known for Kick-Ass. What was the other one he did? He's been doing Jupiter's Legacy, which has been ongoing for forever.
I would have dropped that book if it wasn't.
I did. I dropped it. Like, I have no idea where the book left off. I think the last one I read was issue 3.
But if it wasn't for Frank Quietly, the art is really the only reason I'm sticking with the book.
I definitely read it whenever it comes out in trade. Nemesis was another book that he did that was interesting. Actually, I think was pretty on time.
No, Nemesis was a little late.
You would know because you work in the store. So yeah, when Chrononauts got announced, Millar and Murphy, I really enjoyed Murphy's art on the Wake.
I think this is hands down some of the best stuff he's done.
Yeah.
I mean, the emotion in the people's faces, you could actually just see what they're kind of feeling. And like, what was his friend's name? Dr. Riley. That's the main character's friend is Dr. Riley. So it's Dr. Corbin Quinn and
yes.
Dr. Riley. So Dr. Riley is like an absolute prick. And you could just see how cocky he is with like his facial expressions and stuff. It makes me like really not like him.
Let's talk about the actual synopsis for the book.
Sure.
So to me, while reading this, the advanced solicits of it, sometime in the future, it's unspecified when, we get the ability to time travel. And the first test run of this is actually just sending a satellite, which I think they named Mark Twain 1. Yeah,
they're just sending probes off and seeing where they go.
Yeah. The book actually starts in, I think it's in a desert. Where is it? Let me take a quick look here.
It doesn't say. It's just a random temple.
Southeast Turkey.
Yeah.
It's actually in Southeast Turkey. They find a temple underneath the sand, and they're like, oh, this is interesting. They say it's the oldest house of worship in history. It predates everything.
Predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years.
Yeah. So they go inside and they find a fighter jet from the 70s propped up, and it's like, okay, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So apparently they've been finding relics, underneath relics that they're finding. Like, I think it was underneath one of the pyramids. They're finding like a whole bunch of supercars and things like that, where things like this shouldn't be here. So they've been noticing these anomalies, and I think that's how they figure out that time travel is possible, because these things are happening. It doesn't really explain how they figure out how to do it. It just jumps right to doing it. So within the first couple of pages, you're finding this jet in Turkey. You meet the 2 main characters, and then the next thing you know, they're sending this probe. And it's interesting where they send it to. They send a live probe so that the entire world can watch, and they fly the probe over what was it, the Battle of Gettysburg?
Yeah, I believe it was. I mean, it was definitely some point during the war.
The Civil War.
Yeah.
So let's take a look here.
But I mean,
Yep.
it was great because like it's such a large media event for the world.
Gettysburg.
They had people like,
1863.
yeah, they had people in Times Square watching the big screen. Just everyone engrossed in their living room. I mean, the look of fear on that one little drummer boy's face, like when he looks up and you could tell he's looking into the camera of the probe, it was heartbreaking.
Startling,
yeah.
So it's a success, and then they go, you know, the two main characters, they hug, and they're like 18 months until the first human trials. So you fast forward immediately 18 months, and now there's these two characters. They've shortened the what did they say? They narrowed the suits down. Basically, instead of sending a probe back, they're just wearing suits, which they call chrono suits, and they're able to go back in time just wearing these suits. So they want to go back, I think, to when Columbus was
right before he was
landed on the Americas. And so also being televised through the whole world. One of the characters, which one was it? It wasn't Dr. Corbin, it was the other one.
Riley.
Mm-hmm. He's a prick. He is exactly how I would picture somebody writing Johnny Storm if they could write Johnny Storm an image.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Womanizer, just going after anyone he could get his hands on.
Yeah.
And, talking back to everyone.
So, of course, there's a failure. And the first pilot through gets lost in a time stream. And the second pilot is going to go try and save him. And that's the end of the book, is that the second pilot goes through, and then he is not where he thinks he's going to be. Where is he?
1504.
Yes.
It was.
And so that's where it takes place. He comically gets an arrow through the knee, which is a nice Skyrim reference.
It was kind of shin area.
I thought it was the knee.
I wrote down it should have been the knee, just for the fact that I would have gotten a bigger laugh out of that.
Yeah. So as a first issue, Rob, what do you think of it?
I thought it was smooth. Definitely got all the information out there that you needed. It has me really interested. I mean, I went and, like, because the last page reveal, Riley jumps back in time, obviously, to go see where the other guy went. And it says 1504. And I was like, okay, well, what happened then? What are these events? And like I went on the wiki page and like read about the war that's taking place there. It's like some brutal stuff that's going to be coming.
You went deep into it.
Oh yeah, I wanted to know.
I'm not a big history buff, so I'm just pretty much letting the art dictate to me what's going on here. So he lands in the middle of a big battle. Yes. So it's bad news bears.
But no, I liked it. I liked the character setup. You get to meet Dr. Quinn's ex-wife. He kind of like says his
goodbyes to her.
Goodbyes, and regrets that he spent all his time doing all this work. You know, she's off with another guy at the moment. Now, how did you take it? Do you think the guy that she has been seeing was the one that's on like the hospital bed there? No,
I don't think so. I think it's just they were showing her in a corridor. She must work as a nurse or a doctor, and she's in the background on the phone. In the foreground, they show like there's an operating room, there's a patient laying on the table, but all the doctors are up watching exactly what's going on the TV, that these men are doing this historic launch into time, and if she just happens to be on the phone with one of them. I thought that was like a cool little thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't know if like.
Yeah. They didn't say it, so that's why I didn't think so. Mm-hmm. I really liked it. Like I said, I've been excited about the book. I hope that it stays on time. Because, man, if anything can derail a book, it's delays. And, I mean, Rob mentioned it earlier, unfortunately, Millar's books are often delayed.
Well, see, that's the thing, too, because, Kick-Ass, when that first came out, and then it got optioned, big delay between issue 3 and 4. And then every issue after that, it was like ludicrous how late that book was. And it just seemed that every book that got optioned after that of his, again, same thing. And now, like last night, they announced that this book got optioned.
So it's going to be a movie eventually.
Or something, yeah.
Or something.
Man, I really hope, because we know Murphy can stay on time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the week was pretty much on time. They split that book,
split it. Yeah, they did half and half.
So they had 4 or 5 issues, and then they took a short little break, and then they came back to finish it up, because that story had a very, very noticeable like, let's stop here and pick it up in the next issue. So that'll be interesting. I mean, I'm super excited to keep reading it. I was delighted with the way the first issue went, and I'm immediately enamored with the world that's going on here. I wish they would have done more things where it was like the satellite was going in between that gap of 18 months where it was like, here's Gettysburg, let's look at something else. Let's take it, let's go back and look even further. I thought that would have been interesting to see the world's reaction to this. And I mean, that was something else really quickly that I thought was really interesting. They did show snippets of people sitting there watching it on their TVs, and one guy was talking to his wife or girlfriend and was like, I can't believe you're not interested in this. This is like incredible. This is human history being made. And she's just like, no, I'm not really interested. But other families were sitting there slack-jawed. I would have liked to have seen more of that stuff from an opening issue.
If I were to have any complaints at all, it's that it did read too fast for me.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Like it's absolutely beautiful. I love the story, very straightforward, but I felt that, but just like you said, there could have been just a bit more substance or backstory.
Exposition, maybe. Yeah. Well, that's Chrononauts. That's issue number 1. It is out right now, and we highly recommend that you read it.
Yeah, definitely.
What's another one we could talk about? Oh, I got one right here. Now, last week, Rob and I talked about our love of all things Spider-Man. We're big Spider-Man fans. Ultimate Spider-Man got me back into comics, and so what we're talking about is the second to last issue ever, supposedly, of Ultimate Spider-Man. This is Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man, issue number 11. This book has way too many relaunches. I always forget the Miles Morales part in the beginning.
Well, this is what, the third one?
Yes, I think so.
Well, it's the third Miles one.
Yeah. So, what'd you think of this? You just read this right before we came on the air.
Yeah, I couldn't find my issue, so I had to wait until I got here to read it.
Initial thoughts.
Let's see. I feel like the last 3 issues could have been a little more condensed. It does feel like they've been kind of spreading things out a little too much. But I can tell you right now, there hasn't been, between the Peter Parker Ultimate stuff and the Miles stuff, there hasn't been an issue where I could flat out say, I hate this issue.
I agree 100%.
But this is great because finally everything is coming together. You finally, he knows the deal with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's family, that they're Hydra agents.
Yes. And he's currently captured by them.
Correct, yeah. You have the Spider-Man thieves, the 2 costume people that keep going around robbing different warehouses. They just broke into a S.H.I.E.L.D. warehouse. Don't know what they're going after.
But they're able to take down Jessica Drew.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't seeing coming. I thought once Jessica showed up on the page that it's like, okay, this is the first time they've come across a superhero, that the superhero will just take them down. And no, they actually took her down, and I wasn't expecting that.
That was a beautiful illustrated fight scene.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that final elbow to the jaw that she took was like, you could feel it. I love it.
David Marquez.
His art is amazing.
David Marquez's art is absolutely fantastic. I was a big fan of who was on this book before? Is it Eminem, right?
Well,
Pacelli was on it. I'm trying to think when it relaunched with Miles. Was it? Oh, no, it was Pacelli with Miles, yes. Right? Yeah. Okay. I was a big fan of Bagley stuff, but I think Marquez. Pacelli is amazing. But we were actually talking about her before. But it seems like she can't be on time because her art is probably very hard to do and takes a while. It's so gorgeous. Her Spider-Gwen cover, the variant cover, is probably one of my favorite images of all time. But Marquez's stuff is like top notch. He needs to be on bigger books.
When they announced that he was going to be taking over, this was probably 2 years ago at New York Comic Con. I immediately went and got a sketch from him. He was doing something for Archaea at that point, so I saw him at the Archaea booth and just ran up, and I was like, I'll pay you whatever you want. I just want a little Miles face, and he was like, yeah, that's fine. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that fight scene, as you're mentioning, was beautiful to watch. I always think it's really, really interesting when you can get a well choreographed fight scene and it shows in the comics. Like that's such an amazing thing to do as an artist, is to be able to convey speed and movement,
I was just about to say that.
And punches and things like that. If you can actually convey the speed of the fight that was going on between these 3 characters, that's an amazing thing, and that's well done here.
well, that's why I love like the Spidey type characters, because they seem to do that with like the over agile characters.
Yeah.
Like they'll show you where they last were, you know, a couple
Yeah.
of different times, and yeah, beautiful. Now, I mean, do you have any guesses to who might be under those suits?
You know,
Because I don't.
The entire time I've been reading this little run that they've been doing, where they've introduced these thieves that are using this, it looks like technology, to have these spider / abilities, or quote abilities. I've never really given thoughts to who was under the suit. I just thought that they could be mercenaries. I never thought that they were important characters until the end of the book, when you find out they're working for Dr. Doom. So Miles has been captured by Hydra, and they actually let his girlfriend, in a way, interrogate him. And she's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were Spider-Man. You know, that's not why I was dating you." And he's just like, "Get me out of here." They've captured members of his friends and family, and they want him for some reason. And at the end, Dr. Doom busts in. It was like, okay, did not see Dr. Doom coming in here. And it ends where, you know, the next issue is supposedly the last issue of the book, and they've got a lot of things to tie up.
Yeah, I mean, his father's there, his roommate. It's going to be a whole big, you know, mess to try and put together into one issue.
Now, what I've been wanting to ask you, and then I didn't know that I was saving it for the show, didn't know that you actually had a chance to read the book, was, so next issue, supposedly the last issue. Do you think that this is the right storyline for this book to go out in? Like, my feeling is that the previous storyline, when Peter Parker has supposedly returned and handed the web shooters off to Miles, they battle the Green Goblin together. Like, that, to me, that ending chapter right there, where he gives him the web shooters, Peter and Mary Jane ride off into the sunset, like, that's the way I feel like the book should be ending. It just feels like very rushed. Like, we've just introduced Hydra into the Ultimate Universe. They've captured Miles. Dr. Doom is here all of a sudden. As far as I know, the only interaction that Ultimate Dr. Doom and Spider-Man have had was in the all-new X-Men, where now the you know, the teen versions from the 616 X-Men have been transported all over the place. They're in the Ultimate Universe, and they're battling Dr. Doom because that's where Beast was being held. Like, to me, that's the only interaction Miles and Dr. Doom have had. And here we are, we're going to be closing this incredible run with Ultimate Spider-Man, and we're doing it in a very, it feels like, rushed fashion.
I mean, obviously, it seems rushed. I think that there's two things. First, the Dr. Doom stuff, and obviously what's going over into New Avengers and Avengers with Dr. Doom. That's why I think that you're starting to see Dr. Doom everywhere. Because if you kind of think about it, during that all-new X-Men storyline, he wanted Beast because Beast knew how to access the multiverse, basically. And that was way before the New Avengers reveal a couple of weeks ago, when you find out what his whole deal is, or kind of deal is. And then the second part is with all the Hydra stuff. Back, was it like 2 issues ago in Mighty Avengers, when Misty revealed that all of the 616 teams have been infiltrated by a member of Hydra. Like,
I think that was just Captain America Proctor.
Oh, it was, yes.
Yeah, Captain America Proctor.
So it was the first or second issue of that then.
Yeah.
So that's definitely playing into everything also.
So we got Doom and Hydra in the forefront of the Avengers books in the 616, and now here they are, pretty much circling back in the Ultimate Universe again.
Yeah, because there's the Avengers Operation Hydra series that's about to start. So that's definitely going to play into all this stuff too. I just don't, like, obviously it's not going to be a flat out end, because we know what's going to happen in terms of Secret Wars and Battle World. So we know Miles is going to be there. We don't know about the supporting cast stuff. And still, they're saying that the Ultimate Universe might be somewhere in some capacity.
Yeah, the Secret Wars thing is just a wild stab in the dark for all of us. Like, I mean, Robert, since it's up, how do you feel about the idea of Secret Wars? Like, you know, we haven't really obviously talked about it yet. So what do you think? What do you think of the whole thing?
I love it. I mean, honestly, if you've been reading Avengers and New Avengers, the whole lead up to all of this, I mean, you can go back to the first page of, or not the first page, first couple of pages of Avengers #1, and just see all the nods to Infinity and Secret Wars, basically. And then if you've read the original Secret Wars and Secret Wars 2, I mean, just the Molecule Man, Doom, Beyonder, it just all comes together. And that's why I was pissed that I didn't realize that Doom had a bigger involvement in all of this.
I've never read the original Secret Wars run.
Mhm.
It's one of the few things I haven't read. I mean, I know the importance of it. You know, Spider-Man gets the symbiote costume coming out of that. I've read the what ifs that dealt with it after, that they've done for the 20 years plus that the book, since that book launched. So the Doom thing completely blew me away when it was revealed that, you know, he's been the guy under with all the incursions, behind the incursions. I mean, that book is so confusing.
Well, see that, I mean, that would be a whole nother.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
I mean, I still think that he is trying to do good and stop what the Beyonders are trying to do. But, you know, that's what our friend Ryan and I have been talking about. We go and talk about all things Hickman, so this is quite a mystery to put together.
I'm super excited for Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I like crossovers a lot, so I'm interested to see where this goes. I really can't wait until it's actually over. Like I just want to see when the dust settles, what everything looks like. But that's a couple months away, and we'll definitely get there when we get there.
Yeah, and like all the Battle World stuff, or pretty much everything they've announced, like there's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
There's some crazy stuff.
And like I know event books can get like wacky and stuff, but it's gonna be fun. Like honestly, there are books in there that make me like feel young again, in terms of like, oh my god, I remember when that happened. I remember that character.
Oh yeah, there's sad news aside about what's going on with the writer, but the X-Men '92 was something that like immediately caught my eye. I think it's a Marvel Western. I don't know, is it like 18? It's like I want to say 1886, but that's because I've just played the Order recently. But the Marvel book that takes place in like the 1800s, like the Western book, the art for that, they've showed concept art, and it looks really, really good, and I'm excited to see it.
And then there's the Angela 1602 series.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of cool stuff. I just think that, you know, this is their fine tuning. You're going to get some cool stories during this period, but just like you said, once all is said and done, like when we start to see the real solicits, will everything be renumbered? Will, you know?
Rob and I have a serious love of speculating what I like to call as hot stove comic book talk. I'm a big baseball fan, so like when the hot stove starts, that's like the off season where there's rumors and speculation of who's going where and who's going to sign with what team. So Rob and I will sit there and be like, well, okay, if Dan Slott leaves Spider-Man, where's he going? Oh, what if he goes and takes over Daredevil? Okay, but then where's Mark Waid going? Because we know Hickman's coming off Avengers. So where does that leave that book? And we like to just try and connect all the dots. Usually we're completely wrong.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of good fun. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden one of those springs up in the coming months.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I mean, the solicits have to start hitting. The new previews is next week, so we'll get a peek at some stuff. But then I would probably say within a month we'll really like hit hard on what's going to happen.
Cool, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's Ultimate Spider-Man number 11. One more issue to go there.
Okay.
What do you got, Rob?
Let's stick with Marvel. Let's go Howard the Duck.
This issue surprised me to death. I like fun things 100%, but when Howard the Duck was announced, I was like, I'm going to read one issue of this and then probably just let it, you know, fade to the background. Doesn't seem like it's going to be my type of book, and boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, I didn't know what it really was going to be. I've read some Howard stuff before. I mean, it's just all wacky, you know, nonsensical kind of things. I mean, the most exposure I've really had to him was when the old movie was out, and then there was this horrific Commodore 64 game.
There was a game?
Oh, yeah. Commodore 64 128. I had Howard the Duck, and it was terrible.
I want to read just the opening blurb. So the synopsis for the book on the first page is what pulled me in. I mean, it's Chip Zdarsky writing the book, so that gives you a kind of idea of what the book's going to be about. And that's pretty much the reason I picked it up, was for Chip. So it says, Howard is a duck, as you no doubt peers together from the title of the book and the cover image, but he's not just a duck. He's a duck who talks and displays a remarkable amount of common sense in a world gone mad. Brought here through the nexus of all realities several years ago, Howard has struggled to find a place for himself in this world of hairless apes. He's been a rent-a-ninja, a presidential candidate, even a George Lucas movie subject. But no matter where life takes him, he's still trapped in a world he never made. The George Lucas part, I was like, oh wow, they're referencing the movie. Okay, like this is pretty cool. My question to you is, they use this line, in a world he never made. What does that mean?
In a world he never made?
Yeah, they reference that a couple of times in the book. Like, I'll as you're talking, I'll try and go through and find other times he said it. But I thought maybe that was something that I was just missing.
I mean, I would imagine that just means like fit in.
Yeah. Maybe that's just his way of saying it.
Yeah. I don't think it really has a deeper meaning than that.
Okay.
Like, I never made it here, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I love that it's a very heavy emphasis on his private eye stuff, because he's such a smart ass. And,
he really is.
You know, he has ties with Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk.
Who hates him, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, they just go back and forth, and it's hilarious. She's such a great character, and Chip writes her perfectly, in my opinion. What was the little blurb that, like, when they were giving directions, like in the porn theater, it's directions, and it's like, go up to the building.
If you've passed a She-Hulk, you've gone too far. Do not talk to the She-Hulk.
Maybe there were so many little like things like that just thrown around, like in such small type that, you know, that if you missed, then you know you missed. But go back and just read every little thing that you could see, because there are some really funny things there.
Oh, this book is hysterical. Like, you know, you think it's going to be like a funny book with Chip Zdarsky writing it. You know, like, I'll laugh a couple of times, but there were some parts that I found like genuinely hysterical. There's this part at the end where it's like, here we go, 15 hours later. I mean, 15 hours later in the sense of the story's timeline. Maybe you put the book down for 15 hours between the last page and this page. I find that hard to believe. It's a very exciting book. Like, stuff like that where it's like where it gets very meta with the reader. Like Deadpool does that a lot, where it becomes, it breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah. And
I find that stuff to be terrific. So Spider-Man is in this book a ton.
Yeah,
and I was not expecting that.
Basically, the synopsis is he gets bailed out of jail, you know, and that's why he's pissed at She-Hulk, because he kept leaving her messages. So he gets let out, and he meets someone that he was kind of incarcerated with. She gets let out at the same time. What was her name again? Let's see if you can find whoever she was with. He was with. Sorry, it slipped my mind.
Don't call her doll.
No,
she doesn't like that.
She was pissed at that. She's a tattoo artist, though. So they get out together, and he's going back to his office. Tara?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I wrote it down, but I guess I didn't. No. So gets to his office. A client comes in, and this guy's looking for an amulet that the Black Cat had stolen from him. And so, you know, he's like, oh, okay, cool, a job. You know, I need money. So he goes and enlists Tara to help him out. And they do this that training montage thing.
Yeah.
I just want someone to like make that an actual song. I mean, we've seen it happen with the Spider-Gwen, the Mary Jane's thing.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So I wouldn't be surprised if someone has already recorded this.
I think that's the new form of cosplay. Is, oh, there was a song or a band in a comic. Let's actually bring that to life, and that's really amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, it's funny. So they head over to where the Black Cat is. Basically, Tara knows where she lives. Get the amulet. Black Cat bursts through the door.
Hijinks ensue.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of Spidey action. And I was talking about this before, but so there's a gatherer basically that also wants, I would imagine, Was he going after the amulet or Howard?
I think he's going after Howard.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, he zaps Howard and collects him. And Spider-Man is arriving at the scene at that point and sees Tara and like a little burn spot on the ground and just goes to his knees and he's like, "Oh no, Uncle Ben, I'm sorry." I was like, "Oh my God, that's dark."
I thought it was the funniest thing is that, you know, they're in a way they're poking fun at Spider-Man through the whole book. And then he comes up at the end and he thinks he's failed and Howard's dead. And the first thing is like, he just starts crying and talking about his Uncle Ben. Like, I thought it was one of the funniest things. The way the book ends, like, makes me really want to read the second issue because he's collected and he finds himself in this, you know, this ship, which is like a prison in a way. He's in a cell where he begins the issue, and his cellmate is Rocket.
Yep.
So
and that's perfect because they're both like almost the same characters. They're like kind of,
they are,
you know, misunderstood. They're crabby. They
talking animals,
hate humans mostly. So yeah, it's going to be a nice little Guardians rescue, I would imagine. They're going to come and save the day.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. Actually, like it surprised me. Like, I thought it was going to be fine. I thought it was going to be a book that I would enjoy, but like really wouldn't give a second thought to. Like a book like that for me personally is Squirrel Girl. Like, I read the first issue of Squirrel Girl. I liked it. I'm like, this is totally great, but just not for me. And I figured like this is going to fit into that category, but it really surprised me. And like, I'm definitely going to pick up the second issue.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing if you think about it. Like, if I would have told you a year ago, before Guardians came out, like, we're going to be reading a brand new Howard #1. It's going to have a really, really popular writer on the book and that people are going to like it. What would you have said? Like, no way? Like, yeah.
No, I would never say no way because, I mean, we've seen characters that you would think would have no chance to have their own book, like blow your mind. Like, honestly, Hawkeye, you could just look at Hawkeye and be like,
that's true.
You know, he was such a small, nothing character that no one, you know, any series that he did have before that just didn't really do anything.
Yeah, but even still, you take Hawkeye and Howard the Duck, and they're, even with Hawkeye before the Avengers, you're still in two different classes.
I mean, in terms of like rated characters, like A, B, C,
yeah.
I would say Hawkeye then was a C, and Howard might be an E.
Really?
Yeah.
Apparently, I haven't thought of Howard as highly as I should have over the years.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say F, but E, yeah.
Okay. Okay, good enough.
Yeah, great stuff. Definitely.
I'm just noticing this. I'm looking at the title of the book, and it's Trapped in a World He's Grown Accustomed to, Howard the Duck #1.
That's perfect.
So yeah, Howard the Duck. If you haven't given this book a shot, I would definitely recommend going and doing it. It really surprised me. Maybe it'll surprise you.
What do you got next?
We both are holding a copy of Red One. This book came out this week from Image Comics by Xavier Dorison, Terry Dodson, and Rachel Dodson. It is a beautiful book. And when Rob came, I was like, well, I'm going to talk about Red One. He's like, oh, good, I brought it too. And it is my surprise of the week this week. I did not really pay attention to anything Image does as far as announcements. Like, I kind of like being surprised by Image. Like, I know the Image Expo happened a couple of months ago, and I know there was 1,000 books announced, it felt like.
Yeah, and they just, like the other 2 days ago, I think they announced like another 6 or 7.
Yeah, like I know they're going to be good books. A couple weeks ago, Descender #1 came out from Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen, and I knew nothing about the book. Rob's just kept talking about Descender, like, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and I was like, I don't know anything about this. And so when I read it, I came in totally blank on the book. Like, I did not have any expectations, didn't know what it was about. And same thing with Red One. And I only saw it in the pile as I was going through with Rob, and decided to give it a shot because the cover really was gorgeous looking. And it is a gorgeous looking book.
So what were your initial?
I liked it a lot. Not knowing anything about it, the premise of the book is that it takes place in the 70s, and our heroine, her name is Vera. It appears that she is a female Captain America, but they do not come out and say it, and she is from Russia. So she is, the premise is that she's being sent to the Americas to become an American superhero, to pretty much sway the opinions the opinions of the, what's the word I'm looking for here, the American people about the word communism by using like a backdoor, what's the word, like trying to convince them that communists are okay without actually ever saying that. It's like a reverse psychology. That's the word I was looking for.
Because I mean they're kind of saying that Americans are obsessed with these superhero type characters. Like early in the issue, it made me laugh. Her handler was like, "Do you know have you ever heard of Batman?" She's like, "No." And what about Superman, Spiderman? She's like, "No." And he's like, they're fictional characters that the Americans are obsessed with.
She's like, they believe in fairy tales still.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's got some pretty heavy stuff, especially starting like the first 2 pages.
You did an excellent description of this book when we were talking about it before we came on the show. So why don't you take this one?
Okay. So basically starts off and they're showing an adult film with 2 females and they kiss and there's a big protest going on outside. America in this age is not gay friendly and it's still right around the Cold War time. So the commies are a hot topic for them. And there is a politician, I wrote her name down, Jackie Core. She's running for office and it's on the platform of, look, we got this guy out there, the carpenter. He's cleaning up the Americas. He's
a vigilante.
Yeah, he killed this female actress because she was, she
kissed another woman. Yeah.
So she's running on this platform like, look, we're going to clean the country up. So, believe in what I believe in and we'll get through everything. So the Russians now, they're like, okay, we don't want this person to be elected because if so, this is going to really stir up everything that has kind of just started settling down with the Cold War. So that's why they kind of send Vera over there is to get into uniform and convince everyone that, hey, communism or not communism, just commies, that's not a word we should be kind of scared of.
I liked the description they used at one point. They said, like, we wanted to be less like John Wayne and more like Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Which was confusing to me because I was like, man, is this the way that commies or the Russians thought at this time? And I mean, you had told me no. But continue, please.
Okay, let's see. So what, right after the beginning, so they show obviously all her training and stuff like that, and that's kind of what I don't know if she is just really strong or if she was genetically tampered with.
She is doing things that are mind-bending. She's, while her legs are being dangled in the air, she's lifting weights, but arching her back in a way that is not humanly possible as far as I know. And they show her just constantly doing things above and beyond. Like if you were to just put Captain America in her place, you'd be like, oh, all right, Captain America. So I mean, that's where we got it. They don't say it. They don't say anything about it. Perhaps they go that way later in the book.
Well, the only reason I think that not is the fact that they're saying, like, look, Batman, Superman, they worship these fairy tales, like you said. So if it's just true, like she said, I started training early. I don't think there are like super powered people per se.
Nope. We're not sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. We'll have to see where the book goes. So it goes on further, and then she comes to the Americas. She meets her handler.
She's clueless. She has no clue. Like she's a smart person. She could blend in perfectly, but when it comes to like our cultural type things, she doesn't know that movie actors are rich and powerful kind of people. So she kind of blows this one guy off because she doesn't care. Yeah,
I like her name. Her fake name was the most American thing ever, Alabama Jane.
Yeah,
it's about as American as you can get at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends with her, meeting her handler, and then
pervy handler.
Yes, and then getting into her, I guess, her costume, and that's where the book ends. And then we'll eventually pick up with issue 2 and see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm very excited to keep reading it. I think it has a lot of potential, and I mean, it definitely looks beautiful. I love the colors, written well. So yeah, highly suggest it.
So that's Red One from Image Comics, out now.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got a couple of books over here, Mr. Rob. Why don't you tell me what you got?
This is just a quickie one. Future's End, number 50. Oh, sorry, 46. I think I wrote 50 in the post. Whatever, I'll fix that. It's coming to like the final stretch, I guess you could say.
No, I'm not reading Future's End.
The only reason I'm bringing this up, and I don't think I'm going to spoil this one, just for the fact that if people are waiting for, you know, this whole big one compendium to read, I will say this though, and it's been spoiled in the news and stuff like that. So if you're a big Batman Beyond fan, grab this book, just because you'll get probably some of the most heroic stuff that you've seen him do, Terry McGinnis. And there's a really, really great Tim Drake moment in here. And that's all going to come to a big head. And you're going to have a new Batman Beyond, I guess you could say.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. So still don't know if, like, where in the future this Batman Beyond is going to be, because they're saying that this new future is the definitive new DC future. But again, with the new 52 being dropped and
convergence happening.
Yeah, they're saying that this timeline is the correct timeline now.
Wow, so, I had no idea that any of this stuff was going on in this book. I mean, Batman Beyond somehow passed me by. I think when the cartoon aired, it was like right when I stopped watching cartoons, and then there wasn't really like a comic out when I was reading comics. I know that there've been a lot of starts and stops with him as a lead character in a comic book. I read originally that he was like the main star of Future's End, and I read like the first issue, but I could never get into it.
Yeah, he's. I mean, there is a lot. There's a big cast, and he's just one of those. You know,
I'm gonna have to borrow that from you and try and jump in at issue 46.
Well, yeah, I would wait.
Wait till it's collected.
Yeah, because it's got some great. I mean, Brian Azzarello, Giffen, Jurgens, Lemire, Eaton, Hanna.
Those are some names.
Yeah.
Those are some actually bigger names than I thought were on this book.
But continuing Batman, this was another 2 week ago book. Batman Arkham Knight, number 1. And this kind of stems off of, obviously, the video game franchise. What have you read the other Batman, like,
I didn't read
video games.
The video game comics.
Yeah.
I've read a little bit of what was it, Arkham City, which tied Arkham Asylum and Arkham City together. But I did read. I think there was a continuation after that. But what I know that I read, and I surprised Rob with this before, was after the conclusion of Arkham City. Spoilers: the Joker is dead, and everyone was like, well, that can't be. That, like, there's no way that was possible. And so what they did was they came out with a 5-issue miniseries digitally called Arkham City Endgame. And they show the Joker being cremated in that book, which is where the book pretty much ended. Now, this is Arkham Knight. This is what I explained to Rob before, was actually some of what's happening in this book is, and during the same timeline as that series that came out a couple of years ago, Endgame, there's a part in here where Batman is in Arkham Asylum. And I realized this because he gets trapped by the Joker, and the Joker thinks, the Joker had set up a trap to kill him after his death. And Batman escapes and everything. But what it does is it shows the Arkham Knight, who is the bad guy in the upcoming video game, watching Batman do these things. So it's a really cool thing of where there's 2 time periods going together. But that's was just like this little neat tidbit about the book.
Now, I mean, it gets brutal, and I think this is some of the best, like, ongoing Batman stuff that's been written in a while. It's Peter Tomasi, and
Tomasi's so good.
Oh yeah, there's I mean, just to show how serious Arkham Knight is, the Electrocutioner comes back, or one of his henchmen, because he's not around anymore, and he has his gauntlets. This is right in the beginning of the book. So he's going after Batman. Batman takes him out, leaves him on the roof for the police department to come get. And Arkham Knight just, like, walks up behind him, looks at him, and blows his brains out.
Yeah. So for those wondering maybe why Arkham Knight, the video game, got a mature rating, I think they're kind of laying the groundwork for it here, because this guy doesn't seem to be taking prisoners.
No.
This guy just seems to be killing anybody who comes in his path. And I think it was did he mention there something about, like, I feel like it was one of those Joker lines where he talks about, like, in the Dark Knight, Joker says, like, we deserve like a better class of criminal. I felt like it was something like this.
No, that didn't. I don't remember that. I'm sure he did. You probably remember it better than me. But obviously, this is.
I might be making that up.
This is leading right up to the game. It has some of the funniest banter between Bruce and Alfred. Like some of the best, like, because we haven't seen a lot of Bruce in Batman. It's been Batman, obviously.
Yeah.
So these are some like really cool
Bruce moments. Yeah. There was a line like he's talking to the guy that he's going to kill, the executioner, and he goes, "As I strike, men like you will believe that we're on the same side, but you'll be wrong, because I know just how meaningless the rest of your lives really are to this whole story." So, not a better class of criminal, but he's pretty much saying, like, look, guys like you are just meaningless. So I'm taking you out of the picture permanently.
So then we find out that still in death, the Joker is
killing people.
His body is rigged with the laughing gas. They're trying to cremate him, and the coroners are dying left and right. And I mean, the mystery just keeps deepening. Like, it's going to be really, really weird to know that throughout this series, if we can kind of guess who the Arkham Knight is.
My question I was about to ask you was, do you have any idea who this guy is? Rocksteady, who's doing the game, says the Arkham Knight is a brand new character. Who was writing it was Paul Dini wrote the first two Arkham games?
Yes.
He's not doing this one. It is coming in-house from Rocksteady, and they're saying that the Arkham Knight is a new character completely. Lots of people are actually speculating that maybe it's the Joker and that he didn't die, but they're in two separate situations. Like, they're showing the Joker dead on one page here and the Arkham Knight in another. So it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Or if it is, they're doing a very, very good sneaky job of it. But no ideas, Rob, who it might be?
No. I mean, I hope it's not the Joker.
No, I hope the Joker stays there.
You had first game Joker, second game Joker, Origins Joker.
Yeah.
Let's have it be like a lot of people were saying, the whole Joker and Harley baby in some weird little situation there, but then Rocksteady kind of threw that one out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this. Will you be disappointed if it is a brand new character that we're meeting, or do you want it to be an existing character that we're just not seeing coming?
I put my full faith in Rocksteady.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't let me down with the first two yet, and I really enjoyed the stories of those games, and all of these little tie-in books are beautiful. I mean, some of the best DC books right now are these weird little video game books, like Injustice.
Injustice is phenomenal.
If you go read especially the first two seasons, the Tom Taylor stuff, mind-blowing, awesome. Like, you get their real personalities, it seems. Yeah,
you had mentioned to me that Injustice, as warped as it is, actually feels like the real DC universe.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if they would have ditched the New 52 like back then and ran with what they were doing in Injustice, because like, I understand why they had to reboot and stuff like that. They definitely wanted more sales, and it worked for the first year and change. But to me, it just took so long for these characters to start to intermingle and meet each other, and I don't know. I don't like that. You like a connected universe. Correct. Yeah, and Injustice really had that feeling to me. I mean, there are tons of DC books. I'm definitely not a DC hater, but there are tons of DC books I read. I mean, we'll get to more next week, but I don't know. I love the Injustice feel. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Injustice is probably, outside of Batman, my favorite, and Batman and Robin, my favorite DC book. Like,
it feels like the Justice League universe. I'm learning about characters that I really never learned about before, like, because I've never really been a huge DC guy. So like I'm seeing Constantine, or Constantine, however you want to say it, you know, interact with Batman. I've never seen that in a main DC book. I mean, perhaps it's happened in the past, but I've never seen it. I'm learning about Dr. Fate. I'm learning about the magical. Like this whole season of Injustice has been about the magical realm, and then trying to stop Superman. But every week I look forward to Injustice being released digitally. It's like I have it on subscribe, immediately comes to my phone, and then I can sit there at work while pretending to work and read it.
Ah, good job.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's issue 1. The next issue will be, I think it's like the Joker's last will and testament kind of deal. So very excited. So whether you read it digital or in print, I highly suggest it, especially if you're a fan of the video games. It's not going to spoil. It really ties everything together. Yeah,
it ties everything together really well, especially for me, like, because I had read that Endgame stuff a couple of years ago. So it just shows a different side of that. Like, oh, this character, the Arkham Knight, was around back then. We just didn't know it yet. So those are our books of the week, right? I don't got anything else. I think that was it.
Yep, we done?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Done with those books, yeah.
Yeah, so
awesome.
We're gonna wrap things up. We're definitely gonna come back and talk about more books next week. There were some things that came out this week that we didn't get a chance to talk about. We'll talk about that then. We'll definitely spoil some books that come out next week. We're trying not to spoil too much that comes out the week of, because we record on Fridays. Books just came out 2 days ago. Not everybody gets to read their books.
Yeah. So
some standout ones that we definitely want people to pick up. We'll talk about, but we're not going to sit here and spoil all. You know, have 6 or 7 books that came out this previous Wednesday. So it'll be a little bit of a mix. But hopefully, maybe you hear something that you're not reading, like a Howard the Duck or a Red One, and then you maybe feel like you want to go out and pick it up. I mean, that's our goal.
Yeah, and we'll toggle with the format just to see how things work. But if there are any books that you want to see us talk about, then you could tweet us at Backup Stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let us know, because if there's something that we're not reading that, you know, you kind of want to get our thoughts on, or just something that you want to jump on but you don't know like how things are going, then yeah.
Rob is really good at that. If you're looking to jump into a series and don't know exactly where to jump in, I would definitely reach out to Rob, because he can point you in the right direction.
Yep. Just name a character that you want to get into, and I'll send you there.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right, guys. So that's going to do it for us. Rob had mentioned before, if you want to get in touch with us, we are at Backup Stories on Twitter. My personal Twitter is at Joroak, Joroak, Rob.
And I'm at Dusk1020.
We're all part of the Talking Comics family at TalkingComicBooks.com. You can follow them over at Talking Comics, and you could actually follow Rob and I each week as we sit with our friends, Mr. Cisse and Miss Jackie Turner, as we talk about video games at Talking_Games. So you can check us out over there as well.
Cool.
So that's going to do it, guys. Take care, and we'll see you next week.